Extreme sports can lead a person to experience some of the most powerful feelings of cosmic euphoria this life has to offer. But where there is real reward, there is, by definition, real risk. Among extreme sports, surfing is unique in the sense that most injuries endured by surfers occur, obviously, underwater, which makes wipeouts less appropriate to showcase on shows like Scarred. Compared to extreme sports like vert skating, snowboarding, or BMXing, surfing is generally less dangerous, for the simple reason that wiping out involves landing in water, rather than connecting with hard ground. Indeed, extreme sports on land result in far more broken bones, sprains, and overall injuries than their water equivalents. Nevertheless, surfing, especially big wave surfing, can be one hell of a dangerous sport. It can even be fatal. As big wave surfing has become more and more popular over the years, injuries are far more common. This video is a reminder that surfing can be just as dangerous as other extreme sports, if not more so. At least when you break your ankle skating, you can still breathe. At least when you mistime the landing on a BMX bike, you aren't immediately engulfed by a monster with enough energy to power an entire city. Here are 5 of the worst injuries sustained in big wave surfing over the last few years. Remember, every surfer in this video is an expert, and they still got their asses beat by these waves. This is an incredibly dangerous sport, and you shouldn't paddle out if you don't know what you're doing. Número 5. Rusty Long, Puerto Escondido. One of the world's premier big wave surfers, Rusty Long has surfed giant waves in virtually every big wave spot this planet has to offer. However, even though he's survived wipeouts on absolutely massive waves, including 2 Mavericks wipeouts which were nominated for Billabong's Wipeout of the Year in 2010 and 2014 respectively, it took a 15-foot hollow Puerto beauty to injure him. Rusty's injury is a great example of how fast a human body moves while riding a big wave. His speed was so great that when he fell, he dislocated his shoulder even before penetrating the surface. He was able to get himself out of the water and made a full recovery. Number 4. Bede Pipeline. Bede, also known as the White Fijian, is an Australian professional surfer perhaps best known for defeating Kelly Slater at the 2007 Quicksilver Pro Gold Coast at Snapper Rocks. Durbridge experienced every pipe surfer's worst nightmare during round 3 of the 2015 Pipe Masters, when he took off a little too deep on a gorgeous wave and got mashed into the reef. The wave was strong enough to break his pelvis in 2 places. One of the scariest injuries a surfer can endure, Durbridge was nevertheless lucky enough to make a full recovery. Number 3. Gmac, Mavericks. Gmac is notorious for charging heavy surf without a second thought, famous for towing into one of the deepest barrels ever witnessed at Jaws, not to mention breaking the record for the largest wave ever written on Earth in Nazare. Gmac has even towed into tsunamis caused by calving ice in Alaska. Although his most famous rides involve jet skis, Gmac is nevertheless an elite paddle-in surfer. In 2017, he paddled into a bomb at Mavericks and, like Rusty Long at Puerto, was moving so quickly that he dislocated his shoulder while rolling down the face. After a quick hospital visit, he recovered and was back charging crazy surf in no time. Number 2. Andrew Cotton, Nazare. Nazare is one of the most brutal big waves in the world. Gaining notoriety only over the last decade, this wedge-shaped monster breaks off the coast of Portugal and has played host to some of the largest waves ever ridden on planet Earth. Andrew Cotton's 2018 Wipeout was so bad that he's since dedicated an entire YouTube series to recovering from the experience and returning to surfing. The series, called Bounce Back, is aptly titled because the wipeout which inspired it involves Cotton bouncing and then breaking his back. That's right, he literally broke his back during this wipeout. Indeed, KHON's Wipeout is a painful example of the authentic power of a big wave, as the lip catapults him nearly 30 feet into the air. His life was saved by an inflatable vest and a heroic ski team, and his courageous recovery is exemplified in his return to Nazare's unstoppable surf. Number 1. Dusty Payne, Backdoor Pipeline. While Dusty Payne's Wipeout isn't nearly as dramatic as the others on this list, the fact that his injuries were so much worse than anyone else featured in this video speaks to the terrific power of the ocean and the unexpected force of even smaller waves. Payne's Wipeout is an example of a pipeline worst-case scenario. His face went into the reef and he was knocked unconscious. After being held under for nearly 90 seconds as 5 set waves crashed over him, Payne was lucky enough to be carried out of the water by a handful of other surfers and lifeguards who helped him back onto the beach and got him to the hospital. He broke his jaw in 3 places and, worst of all, fractured his skull. Payne is lucky to be alive and extremely grateful to the people who saved his life. If he had been surfing alone, he simply would not have survived. Over the past year, Payne has made a heroic recovery and has returned to the water with a vengeance. He's grateful to be alive and expresses that gratitude by continuing to do what he does best, charging big-ass surf. Every wipeout on this list is bad, but the fact that Payne's tumble looks so typical serves as a neat but terrible warning for anyone who spends time surfing. The ocean is unpredictable, and even the world's most experienced surfers are powerless in its grasp. Remember that the next time you paddle out.
Every day the sun gets a little bit lower. My heart beats a little bit slower. Don't coerce me to think that I might still owe her.